Hey there, guys and gals. Welcome to part 2 of our interview with Julian Joseph. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, make sure to go back and give that a listen. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really helps us out and keeps you up to date with all things I Know This Guy. That's enough of me, and now for the rest of the interview.
You know, a lot of times when I either have to go and speak in front of people, invited to a city, I don't know what to expect. Sometimes there's an underwhelming sort of feeling, and all of a sudden I'm out there and it just completely turns around, and it's an incredible group, and people are, talking to you and just surrounding you, wanting more information. Have you ever had an event, a gig like that?
Well, I think often, if ever I feel negative about traveling, it's probably because I've been doing it too much, and because it's been a one day experience. You fly in, do the concert, and then really early in the morning you fly out, and then you do these one-nighters, a lot of them, and you just get weary. So more that affects me if I have to travel and I'm thinking, oh boy, it's just a one night thing. So generally when I go out, I'll often be surprised just by the generosity of people. But I don't think I have any real preconceptions, because I know that if it's going to be a one-nighter, I'm not going to enjoy the experience physically or mentally as much as if I get to spend a few days in a place, or it's not such a rush. I can leave in the evening or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know whether that is the kind of experience that my life so far has ever set me up for. I remember I went to France one time, and it was my birthday. I think it was, I don't know, it was maybe on the eve of, I don't know whether it was a big birthday or not. I don't think it was. No, it wasn't a big birthday. But it was one of the birthdays in my 20s and my late 20s. And I went to Paris and I played a few nights in Paris. And I thought, well, I like to be at home and celebrate my birthday. So, I was feeling a little, I don't know, displaced is probably the correct word. And it turned out to be great because, I was with I'd taken a large contingent of young musicians that I had put together from a mixture of, my professional working band, my trio, and really talented kids that I had discovered is not quite the right word, but I had workshopped in one of the music schools in London. And I thought, they would be great. That would be great. And that guy would be great. So I put those guys together and took them to France with me. And we did a great gig. People really responded well to it. But the thing I really liked was that each night, because they knew it was my birthday, they gave us unlimited champagne. So I really enjoyed that. That not necessarily changed my expectations, but it sort of surprised me because it was just so generous of the club where I was playing. And I just was very, very grateful. So that's definitely not a great story or anything, but it certainly changed my mood and my expectation. I tend not to be sort of down on anywhere that I go, because I do realize that it's a privilege. You can get a bit travel weary, but even that is a blessing. If people want to see you and want to come out and invite you even to another country. So I hope that gives you a little window into my psyche.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I was very curious because you do travel quite a bit. Hayden, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I guess it seems like throughout your life, like mentorship has been a huge part of your development musically. And you just mentioned this situation here. Is that another part of the program of the academy, or even personally, like when you're gigging, do you make a point of trying to bring up younger talent?
I don't know whether it's entirely honest to say that my motives are altruistic. I like to help anybody who asks for it. I like people who show initiative and are quite bold about trying to get that help or that assistance. But I, like many other people, and probably including you, if you hear someone who's really great, you're just hungry to play with them.
Yeah.
I guess it's like being a kid and going in the playground and you just play with the cool people, and that's really what it is. You hear a young talent and you just think, wow, I just hear something for them. I just hear they would be really good like that in this situation. They'd be really good in this situation, or that's somebody I really want to write for. So that's, how I've done it. I think as I've got older, setting up my own academy, everything looks like I'm really a benevolent, generous artist and everything, but I don't know whether that's my motivation. I don't think so.
When's the last time you've been knocked out by a new talent or someone who just kind of floored you?
Well, I was knocked out by a young bass player who's been coming through my academy since he was 10. He was playing today, and I just thought, oh my goodness, what? Then there's another kid who just weekly floors me, trombone player. So the bass player is called Mentorship. Claffey, and his father's Irish and his mother is from Ethiopia. He's just incredible, and his younger brother plays drums. Another guy who really floors me is a brilliant young trombonist who also is in my academy called James Wade Syred. And these guys you're definitely going to be hearing about. But so many of them are the young ones. So many of them are kids that I've been fortunate enough to be engaged with now. But gosh, further afield, I'm not really too sure. One of my students just came back from Berkeley and did the most amazing set. A British Japanese pianist called Karen Shirayashi. She's really talented, a very, very talented composer. She really has something unique. So at the moment, it's many of the people who I'm connected to. I don't think it's nepotism. I think I just seriously, honestly am floored by them, and really happy when I feel that the virtues I'm trying to extol or put out there are starting to come through them, who I've seen develop over a number of years.
I had another one to bring it back to your book and making the journey of education through music like a personal, like it's a personal journey anyway. Like you have to take it upon yourself, and it's up to you to go as far as you can through that journey. How has that changed for you over the years?
I think when you're younger, you're more categorical. This person can play, this person can't. This person's talented, that person isn't. And you just realize that no, it's all opinion. All of it is opinion. And most of it is just like life. It's about what works for you, what is important to you. And also the realization that those questions are, the way they're answered is different for everybody, every single person on this planet. So I think over time, expecting there's just one answer to a universal question has matured in me. I still think that, Sonny Rollins, Louis Armstrong, John Coltrane, Sidney Bechet, these talents are undeniably exquisite, and definitely there's a consensus, and the lack of consensus is just an argument.
Now, what is it like for you? What is it about those players that have that special quality?
Okay, let me get a little bit metaphysical on you, and just say that there's a magic in them. I always think that we all respond to energy, and we hear the force of their energy and we accept it. And not only is their energy immaculate and amazing, but the information that comes out of them goes along with that energy. And I think that's what's special about any supreme talent like that. It's a bit short, isn't it? Sorry.
No. It's succinct.
Okay, so Hayden, are you going to allow me to ask the questions now, or
You can go ahead,
going to
Dad.
go back over? Okay,
I'll allow it.
I thought it would just be one, but no. Okay, I'm really curious. I see this all the time with entrepreneurs. I see the pictures with people sitting on Lamborghinis waving cash, get rich quick, successes, just very fast, easy success. And what I find is the true high quality entrepreneurs are people that are pretty much had to struggle, get over hurdles. Some people call it fail to get where they are. So I'm wondering about you. Did you find that you had to get over some hurdles? And if you did, what were they and how did you go around them or get around them?
Okay. So I think the best way for me to answer this question is that I live by a certain credo, a certain principle, which is that I never let fear stop me from doing what it is I wish to do. In fact, my motto is that if I find I'm afraid of something, it's the thing that's going to make me do it. So I try not to let fear get in the way. Now, often fear is irrational. Many times it's absolutely rational. And so ignoring your fear can often be foolhardy, but I'm even prepared to be foolhardy and fail abysmally so that fear doesn't rule me. Many times I've had to play piano concertos with orchestras and not feel entirely ready. And I'd say 99% of the time I get through it okay. But there have been some disastrous failures that have happened. I try not to dwell on it. I try not to beat myself up about it. And I think one of the greatest analogies was a friend of mine who was teaching someone said to the kid, play this piece of music. I can't, I might make a mistake. And they said, play it anyway. So they played it and they made loads of mistakes. And they said, look out the window. And they said, what? I said, has the world ended? No, it hasn't. So I often think of things like that. It doesn't mean I just run into the fire and run into into a situation where I'm going to just fail abysmally. But yeah, I kind of live by that rule. And so it allows me to use fear in a positive way. Yeah, sometimes I come up a cropper, but hey, I'm a human being.
Nice. Okay, I like that answer. All right, so now that we know your struggles and how you overcome them, what about your achievements, or what would you say would be your biggest success?
Gosh, I was asked what my biggest success was with my academy. And with my academy, it's when the students come back. So I was talking about a very talented young pianist, Karen Shiraishi, when she's been at Berkeley and she's back now for a little while because, the programs are being run online. So she just thought, well, I'll go home for the time being. And so she pops in to the academy and really relishes the time she spends with us and other pupils. In fact, all the ones who've gone to America or farther afield, many of them who are currently at college programs now, they all come back to my academy. And this is something I'm very proud of because I know that it's really worthwhile. They feel that it's really worthwhile for them to come to me and, keep honing their skills and keeping their whole jazz mindset and their musical mindset sharp and at the ready and not getting lazy about things. So I'm really happy about that. I just won an award at the moment called the Ivor Novello Award. I was made a fellow. And it's taken me, I won that on the 1st of December. And I'm sort of getting my head around it because, it's a huge honor. And in the 76-year history of the Ivors Academy, they've only had 21 fellows, me being the 21st. So I don't think I'm really proud of awards, but I'm proud of that one because people like Sir Malcolm Arnold, the great composer, Sir John Dankworth, Kate Bush, as someone I mentioned earlier, Sir Elton John, Sir Paul McCartney. These are the kinds of people that they award. So it makes me feel really proud to be part of that group of, inspirational people, and that makes me feel really special. So I don't know. I think maybe the first time I played George Gershwin's Piano Concerto in F when I was 27 with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra at the Barbican. I'm really proud of that. I recently played it in 2018. It kicked my behind, but I was very happy that I could revive it. It put me through my paces, but I was really happy that I was able to do something monumental like that, where every part of my body and my brain is screaming, are you sure you're ready? And I just went out there, swallowed my fear, and just got on with it. So yes, I've done it a few times since, but it was a long gap before I played that particular piece again. My latest opera, which was premiered in 2018, my own take and reimagining of the Tristan and Isolde story that I did with the librettist Mike Phillips. I'm very, very proud of that. So I'm really proud of something that takes my musical abilities into a slightly different realm that I'm not necessarily dealing with all the time. So those are some things that I'm really, really proud of.
All right. And congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much.
Let's talk about quote. Do you have any inspirational quotes or quotes you may have yourself that you live by?
Well, I'm actually a great collector of quotes. So it was interesting that you had asked me about it. And, one of the ones that I sent to you was, music is your own experience, your thoughts, your wisdom. If you don't live it, it won't come out. It won't come out of your horn. They teach you there's a boundary line to music, but man, there's no boundary line to art. And that's something Charlie Parker said. And I absolutely agree with that 100%. Likewise, as I sent you one that's about from Duke Ellington. Well, one from Duke Ellington. If it sounds good and feels good, then it is good. And I love and live by that. And this one I think is really beautiful. Anyone can make the simple complicated. Creativity is making the complicated simple. And that's from Charles Mingus. Just such clear thinking. And there's one also from George Russell. He says, and incidentally, I'm not self-taught. Everybody who's given me a moment of beauty, significance, or excitement has been a teacher. So all of these quotes, I just find out really uplifting. And George Russell, I had the great privilege of interviewing him for my show Jazz Legends many moons ago. And just, he had been quite sickly. I think he was ill and in hospital, and, Miles Davis used to visit him and all these, really phenomenal people. And that was also when he wrote the Lydian concept of tonal organization, the Lydian chromatic concept of tonal organization. I better get it right. Hayden's listening. He's like, come on, Julian, come on. So, he spoke about the book and how he wrote it, as he was convalescing. and that, he talked about there's a unity in things, and that he found that using the Lydian sound. Now, there's something called modes in music. We base a lot of Western music is based on the Ionian mode, which is da 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 dee, da da dum, and he sharpens the four and uses the Lydian as the bassist, and it's because there's a symmetry to it, and as he said, there's a unity in things, and as you shift everything over into the Lydian mode, there is a beauty in that concept. I don't know whether you've ever dealt with that, Hayden. Have you ever looked into the Lydian concept?
No, I've heard it mentioned, but I haven't checked it out.
It's really something. I haven't gone into it deeply, but I think you sort of lean yourself to it. One is drawn to it, when as you experiment with harmony and color, especially in orchestration, or just how you try to move, harmony through the landscape or try to move music through the landscape of harmony, or harmony through the landscape of music. It's neither one nor the other, but, creating a different basis of sound just with the change of one note makes a huge amount of difference. And this whole experiment with modes is something that George, and I spoke about, when Miles was experimenting and came up with Kind of Blue, and this subtlety in the music that, it's not flashy. I was reading actually a really bad review on Kind of Blue, saying that it's really a great entrance into jazz, but I don't think that. I think it's more than that. I think that, it's a profound recording that gives you so much without it being obvious. And I think often the greatest things in life, not obvious, and so getting into that album is just, quite an important journey for most human beings. I would say that.
Mm-hmm. I think that was one of my first albums that I got into. Yeah.
But even to relate it back to that Mingus quote too, it's Kind of Blue isn't flashy. It's not overtly complex. It's just something beautiful that I guess no one would have heard before that time.
And it's also, as Menga said, making the complex simple. It's not about making the simple complex. It's about, there's so many things that when poured through the prism of art, there's a simple and elegant observation that comes through. And I think Kind of Blue has that. It has that amazing quality.
That is an amazing quote. I mean, just think of life, and you could it's a perfect quote. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
What about, so you've interviewed tons of people. Who's been a couple of your favorite?
Well, I've spoken to Chick Corea. I've spoken to Herbie Hancock. I've spoken to McCoy Tyner. McCoy Tyner is really, really special because he's such a humble man. Unfortunately, he passed away earlier this year, just before we went into lockdown in Britain. But this amazing, innovative, inventive pianist who completely changed the landscape of how every single piano player plays chords, plays melodies after him, was just such a humble man. I remember he said to me that playing with John Coltrane made him really understand service, really understand that your contribution to supporting another artist is just as important as being the artist out in front all the time. Now, obviously, for the initiated, they'd say, well, he certainly had his moment, more than a few moments in the sun. And, his record speaks for itself. But just the humble and beautiful way in which he said that to me made me, I don't know, appreciate a whole different realm of existence, in performance where it's so based on the self, where it can be so based on the self, so based on, ego in a certain way. So McCoy Tanner, incredible speaking with him. Also, Benny Golson, he was the first interview I ever did, and I was nervous as you would not ever believe. I was so, I don't know, in awe. Such a gentleman, such a kind spirit, elegant, and just, profound. He told stories actually about when he and John Coltrane went to see Charlie Parker playing in a club, and they were too young to get in, so they listened from outside and just waited. And then when Charlie Parker came out, they took hold of his horn and carried it for him, and he spoke with them and was really kind and generous to them too, really interested in what they were working on, and spoke to them about music. So he had so many vignettes and nuggets of great information and stories about his life and all of the great characters that he had come across. And this is one of the major artists in our music, so yeah, he was incredibly spectacular to speak to. I spoke also at length to Freddie Hubbard. I think it was one of his last interviews, and he spoke about coming into New York, rooming with Eric Dolphy, and just getting to spend time with people he really admired, like Lee Morgan, and talking about Wynton Kelly, and just really it was amazing. So yeah, it gave me a look into the music and these phenomenal periods of creativity that is really privileged to share with the rest of the world. Recently on my show that runs now called J to Z, I had Kenny Barron in, and he played a solo set for me and spoke with me about all sorts of things, when he first moved to New York at 18, and playing with Dizzy Gillespie and meeting James Moody, and there was he lived in an apartment where I think in the same apartment block, Pepper Adams, the great baritone saxophone player, was rooming with Elvin Jones, and just and he also spoke about playing with Stan Getz, and he was in town actually playing with the great bass player Dave Holland, who was my fellow countryman and a person I'm very privileged to say I know. And also he visited my academy and just rolled his sleeves up and helped the kids learn stuff and played with us, and he was just phenomenal. And so Branford did the same thing. I mean, in fact, Branford's come to the academy twice. So yeah, I've interviewed so many great. I interviewed Andrew Hill. I interviewed there are so many people to mention. I did a great long interview with Wayne Shorter that was really immense. So yeah, many of them stand out for me. But as a collection of great jazz talent and their points of view and their view of the world, all of it is very unselfish and very altruistic and spiritual, incredibly spiritual. There was only one person I interviewed that I really didn't like. I won't tell you who they are, but this guy was not very forthcoming. Gave me monosyllabic answers.
Don't you love that?
I didn't know why he even showed up for the interview. So anyway, you get one out of hundreds is not too bad.
That's not too shabby. Yeah.
I did that show for 8 years, and every single person was a gem, except for one person.
Wow. That's, that's incredible being able to talk to all those people, just get to know them, get to be a little part of their life for a short period of time. It is so cool. It's like doing this podcast. I get to meet so many interesting people. They're all so, I haven't come across the person with the one word answers. Not yet. Man.
You're so charming. That's why.
Oh, yeah, right. I don't know what I'm going to do when that does happen. But anyways.
You just take it as it comes, because it does them more harm than you, to be honest. It doesn't do them any good whatsoever. So you just leave it, and you're just like.
It makes Hayden's job really easy in editing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Silence, eh?
Yeah.
Silence.
Hey, Julian, we're at the end of the podcast, and I've got to tell you, it really has been a pleasure having you on and talking about everything. And hopefully we can touch base later on at some point and talk more.
Absolutely. Thank you, Norm. And thank you, Hayden. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you. Yeah, it just feels like we're hanging out.
That's it. Yep. Now, I do have one question, though. At the end of every podcast, I always ask our guest if they know a guy.
I know many guys. Yeah, there are several people that are really interesting people that I know that you'd love to speak with. One person is Sahana Guerrero, who's creating the most amazing. She runs the World Heartbeat Music Academy, not far from where I live, and actually she's right next to me. But she's also creating a new music facility nearby, and it's the first concert venue built in London for the last, is it 15 years? 18 years.
No, 8 years.
Yeah, last 8 years, sorry. So that's somebody I know.
Since 2008.
Since 2008? Okay, that's 12 years. Little mathematics for you. Anyway, she's amazing. So, she's a clarinetist. She works with an amazing array of musicians from Indian music, and, really runs the most amazing academy for young musicians that involves Indian classical music, Western classical music, jazz music, and folk musics from the Celtic fiddle to Eastern European music. So all of these things combine in academy. So that's definitely one person who is a guy I know who happens to be a gal.
Oh, perfect.
And but there's some other musicians. There's a brilliant trumpeter called Byron Wallen, essentially out of the jazz side of things, but has an amazing interest in collecting unusual art from Africa and different kinds of cultures. Also, he's a master of gamelan music as well, so involves that into his music. He has there are many different rainbows to his art, and also he's a phenomenal teacher. So there's him, and then there's another guy I know called Matthew Barley, a classical cellist essentially, who creates the most amazing combinations and collaborations with brilliant different artists from different disciplines, Indian classical music, rock and ambient music, and jazz musicians like me. Yeah, he's a very, very interesting guy. So those are the guys and gal that I know that I think you'd be really enamored with.
Okay, well, thank you again, Julian. It really has been just a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Norm. The fun was mine.
Thanks for listening, guys and gals. Next week we have another radio host from the BBC. I guess there's a BBC takeover going on. Not only that, but he's also a TED Talk speaker and an incredible author by the name of Colin Grant. Make sure to tune in next time to check it out. That's enough of me, and I'll see you next time.